Apollo 15 Panorama Station 2. This panorama was collected by lunar module pilot Jim Irwin at Station 2. David Scott is to the left of the rover. He is examining a boulder. The large hill to the left of the rover is the summit of Hadley Delta. Apollo 15 was the first of the 3 Type J missions, consisting of extensive scientific investigations of the Moon on the lunar surface and from lunar orbit. It was designed to conduct exploration of the Moon over longer periods, over greater ranges, and with more instruments for scientific data acquisition than on previous Apollo missions. Major modifications and augmentations to the basic Apollo hardware were made. The most significant was the installation of an instrument module in one of the service module bays for scientific investigations from lunar orbit. Other hardware changes consisted of lunar module modifications to accommodate a greater payload and permit a longer stay on the lunar surface, the provision of a lunar roving vehicle (LRV), known simply as the rover, and a scientific sub-satellite to be deployed into lunar orbit. Apollo 15 Panorama Station 2B. This panorama was photographed by Jim Irwin at Station 2. Dave Scott is to the left of the rover. He is examining a boulder. The large hill to the left of the rover is the summit of Hadley Delta. The chosen landing site was an area near the foot of the Montes Apenninus, Apennine Mountains, and adjacent to Hadley Rill. The primary objectives for Apollo 15 were to perform selenological inspection, survey, and sampling of materials and surface features in a pre-selected area of the Hadley Apennine region, to emplace and activate surface experiments, and to evaluate the capability of the Apollo equipment to provide extended lunar surface stay time, increased extravehicular operations, and surface mobility, and to conduct in-flight experiments and photographic tasks from lunar orbit. The All-Air Force crew included Colonel David Randolph Scott, Commander, Major Alfred Merrill Wardens, Command Module Pilot, and Lieutenant Colonel James Benson Irwin, Lunar Module Pilot. Apollo 15 Panorama Station 7. This panorama was photographed by Jim Irwin. Dave Scott is at the rover examining a vise. Apollo 15 launched from Launch Complex 39 at Cape Canaveral at 9:34 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, only 187 milliseconds off schedule. The translunar injection, or TLI, and hybrid transfer maneuvers were combined into a single optimized TLI S4B engine burn. A minor problem early in the mission involving a short circuit in a service propulsion system, or SPS engine, firing switch was successfully cleared through revised procedures for the lunar orbit insertion, or LOI, and subsequent SPS maneuvers. David Scott and James Irwin flew their lunar module to a perfect landing at 6:16 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, July 30th, at Hadley Rill, about 1,500 feet north and east of the targeted landing point near a crater named Solute. Landing approach over the Apennine Range, one of the highest on the Moon, was at an angle of 26 degrees, the steepest approach yet used in Apollo missions. Apollo 15 Panorama Station 9A. This panorama was photographed by Jim Irwin at Station 9A. David Scott is at the rover getting a camera that is stored beneath the seat. On August 2nd, LM Falcon fired its ascent stage engine and lifted off the Moon for its rendezvous with Command Module, or CM, Endeavour. For the first time, the lunar liftoff was seen on Earth via the LRV television camera. The 2 spacecraft docked as Endeavour began its 50th lunar orbit. On the 74th revolution, the Particles and Fields sub-satellite was spring-launched from the service module Sim Bay. On the next revolution, August 4th, a 2-minute, 21-second SPS burn put Apollo 15 on its path back to Earth. On August 5th, Alfred Wardens became the first human to carry out a deep space EVA. He exited the CM, climbed toward the rear of the SM and retrieved film cassettes from the Sim Bay cameras and returned to the CM. The entire operation was completed in 18 minutes. 1 hour had been scheduled in the flight plan. Apollo 15 Panorama VIP Site. This panorama was photographed by Dave Scott. The lander can be seen in the distance. Jim Irwin is to the right of lander. The rover is parked in its final resting place. Beyond it, Dave Scott has placed a small figure and card listing the astronauts and cosmonauts who have died during the course of their duties. The mission accomplished all primary objectives and provided scientists with a large amount of new information concerning the Moon and its characteristics. The Apollo 15 mission was the fourth lunar landing and resulted in the collection of a wealth of scientific information. The Apollo system, in addition to providing a means of transportation, excelled as an operational scientific facility. The following conclusions were made from an analysis of post-mission data. The Apollo 15 mission demonstrated that, with the addition of consumables and the installation of scientific instruments, the CSM is an effective means of gathering scientific data. Real-time data allowed participation by scientists with the crew in planning and making decisions to maximize scientific results. Apollo 15 Panorama north of the lander. This panorama was photographed by Jim Irwin. The solar wind collector is to the right of the lander in the distance. David Scott is at the rover, to the right past the solar wind collector, positioning the high-gain antenna. The mission demonstrated that the modified launch vehicle, spacecraft, and life support system configurations could successfully transport larger payloads and safely extend the time spent on the Moon. The modified pressure garment and portable life support systems provided better mobility and extended the lunar surface extravehicular time. The ground-controlled mobile television camera allowed greater real-time participation by Earthbound scientists and operational personnel during lunar surface extravehicular activity. The practicality of the lunar rover vehicle was demonstrated by greatly increasing load-carrying capability and range of exploration of the lunar surface. The Lunar Communications Relay Unit provided the capability for continuous communications en route to and at the extended ranges made possible by the lunar rover vehicle. Apollo 15 Panorama ALSEP Site. This panorama was photographed by Jim Irwin at the end of EVA-2. The Passive Seismometer Experiment, PSE, and the Central Station are in the close foreground. A cable running from the Central Station goes to the magnetometer. Dave Scott can be seen reaching for a drill to the right of the magnetometer. The solar wind spectrometer is between Dave and Jim. To the right of Dave is the heat flow electronics box, with Mount Hadley in the background beyond the experiment. The rover can be seen in the distance to the right of Mount Hadley. NASA mission reports noted that landing site visibility was improved by the use of a steeper landing trajectory. Apollo 15 demonstrated that the crew could operate to a greater degree as scientific observers and investigators and rely more on the ground support team for systems monitoring. The value of human spaceflight was further demonstrated by the unique human capability to observe and think creatively, as shown in the supplementation and redirection of many tasks by the crew to enhance scientific data return. Apollo 15 Panorama Stand-Up EVA. This panorama was photographed by Dave Scott during the stand-up EVA conducted only hours after the lunar module reached the surface of the Moon. Although mission managers were initially reluctant to plan for this unique viewing opportunity out of the top hatch, geologists had convinced Scott that the observation and photography would be valuable for planning the rover traverses. No stand-up EVA was performed again. The capsule communicators, Capcoms, for the mission were Joseph Allen, Gordon Fullerton, Carl Henneis, Edgar Mitchell, Robert Parker, Jack Schmidt, Alan Shepard, Dick Gordon, and Vance Brand. The support crew were Henneis, Allen, and Parker. The flight directors were Gerald Griffin, first shift, Milton Windler, second shift, and Glenn Lunny and Eugene Krantz, third shift. The Apollo 15 launch vehicle was a Saturn V, designated SA-510. The mission also carried the designation Eastern Test, range number 7744. The CSM was designated CSM-112 and had the call sign Endeavour.